Hi guys, welcome to Sourcing Classes. This is Hima Hegde presenting before you the Anthropological News Diary for the week. To begin with, let us look at the topics under light for the week. The week as in 5th of July to 10th of July. So here we have archaeology and the subtopics under the same. Likewise, the tribal affairs, physical or biological anthropology, the same continued, and miscellaneous section under which we have action anthropology and sports anthropology. So here we have the topics under light for today. G quadruplexes, reasons to save archaeology from funding cuts, World Zoonosis Day, that was on 6th of July, and then action anthropology. So to start with, we have G quadruplexes. DNA usually forms classic double helix shape. As you all know, DNA forms the classic double helix shape. You all are aware of that. So now this is two strands wound around each other. But approximately 1% of the human genome has the ability to fold into four-stranded quadruple helix DNA structure. Four-stranded quadruple helix DNA structure. Now these are called as G quadruplexes or also as G-force. Now G-force regulates several key cellular processes like transcription and have been hypothesized to participate in others. There have been only a handful of studies that provided experimental proofs of the G4 elements playing functional roles. And this study is the first to look at G-force across the genome to see if they show the characteristics of functional elements as a general rule. Now to better understand the function of G-force, Dr. Gublet and his colleagues looked at the distribution across the genome, that is the distribution across the genome, their thermostability, and whether or not they showed sign of being under the influence of natural selection, all in relation to the functional element of the genome. The researchers confirmed that as a rule, G-force are more common in the regions of the genome known to have important cellular functions, and that the G-force of these regions are more stable than elsewhere in the genome. Now the 3D structure of the G-force can form transiently, and how stable their structure is depends on the underlying DNA sequence and other factors. Functional regions of the genome are generally maintained by a type of natural selection which is called as purifying selection. Mutations in these regions could disrupt their function and be harmful to the organisms. The mutations therefore are usually eliminated by purifying the selection, which keeps DNA sequence relatively unchanged over the time. In non-functional regions of the genome, a mutation may have no impact. It may have no impact in case of non-functional regions and can persist in the genome without any consequences. These regions of the genome are said to evolve neutrally. Now first, the geneticists, they focus almost exclusively on the protein coding genes. Then they become aware of many functional non-coding elements, and now the researchers have G-force and possibly other non-BDNA elements. Defining the full complement of functional genome elements is crucial for interpreting the potential disease consequences, and also not only the inherited genetic variants but also the mutations arising within the tissues over the lifetime of individuals. The identification of G-force as novel functional elements within the human genome is key to advancing the use of genetics in precision medicine. So moving on, here we have the reasons to save archaeology from funding cuts. Firstly, archaeology is not about the past. as in it is not only about the past. The perception still lingers of the archaeologist detached from reality, stuck in the past, excavating ancient worlds to fill the museum stores with newly discovered treasures. Now this perception is far removed from reality of archaeology as a progressive and future-oriented discipline, one that uses evidence from the past to explore contemporary and anticipated future challenges such as climate change. Secondly, archaeology is a science. Archaeology is a science. Archaeology is traditionally positioned within the realm of arts and humanities. This is no longer appropriate since scientists have also become more prominent within the archaeological research. Next, archaeology is a universal discipline. Universal discipline. Archaeology focuses on understanding how people in the past interacted with the world around them. It explores how their decision making shaped their world and the impact that had on the future. Next, the fourth reason would be that archaeology can help shape a better world. For instance, in Galapagos, that is an island, archaeological methods are being used to work out what sources plastic pollution has come from. This can help focus attempts to change people's polluting behavior and so reduce the impact of waste on an iconic marine environment. So moving on, we have the World Zoonosis Day. As I said earlier, it is celebrated or regarded on 6th of July. 6th of July is regarded as the World Zoonosis Day. The World Zoonosis Day holds significance in the wake of novel coronavirus disease, that is the COVID-19 pandemic, believed to have originated in bats and transmitted to humans via pangolins. There have been periodic emergence and re-emergence of zoonotic diseases such as severe acute respiratory syndrome, the Middle East respiratory syndrome, and the Ebola in the past. Ebola in the past. Zoonosis is an infectious disease caused by a pathogen that is originated in animals. But jump to humans directly or to an intermediary species. Animals have therefore played an essential role in maintaining zoonotic infections, be it bacterial, viral or parasitic. In nature, COVID-19 disease caused by the SARS-CoV-2 virus is one such reality plaguing the world today. These settings, characterized by high stocking density of genetically similar breeds, for example you have the poultry, pigs, dairy and the fish, are aimed at productivity, confined living conditions and limited focus on animal husbandry, acts as hotspot for infection-causing bacteria or virus to multiply and spread. Such settings also involve routine use of chemicals or drugs such as the antibiotics to prevent infections and are a substitute to hygiene and sanitation. The growing severity of COVID-19 is making us rethink the ways to reduce the transmission of emerging diseases, the transmission risk of emerging diseases from animals to humans. One way is to change our interaction and relationship with the animals. The solution aligned to the key stages of trade chain such as the supply, that is production and sourcing, the transaction, that is transport and sale, and demand, that is consumption. However, they need to be assessed in regard to the local, regional and also international context before implementation. The supply side interventions to prevent zoonotic emergence include increased focus on improving the health and hygiene conditions of the animals and the standards of the same in the farms by reducing the stocking density and ensuring access to veterinary care, preventing mixing of the domesticated animals with those of wild origin, and improving the biosecurity of farming practices. On the transport and sale aspect, the key intervention areas include risk of disease transmission during transport and also during the travel or the process of sale. Increased awareness and promotion of voluntary behavior change in consumers, coupled with options for increasing cost of purchasing or consuming high risk products, apply to the demanding side interventions. Now, implementation of these approaches will also need the right enablers such as the capacity, resource, laws and regulations. Reducing dependence on intensive systems and considering more sustainable systems of producing food will not only allow for reduced emergence of zoonotic diseases but also make way for preserving human health and environment. So coming to the last one, we have action anthropology. Action anthropology is an approach used by the anthropologists and other applied social scientists to help indigenous and underrepresented communities solve the problems. Action anthropologists are generally motivated by the concerns for social justice, though this is more important for some than others. A basic tenet for action of the action anthropology is that decisions affecting a community are best made by that community. The method of action anthropology depends on a clinical or experimental method of study, while the special interest of applied anthropology rests on humanistic studies in the natives and minority people. The action anthropologist urges upon the value of disinterested consideration of social phenomena. Now, these two aspects of anthropology in action can be viewed as springing from two roots of the same plant. An action anthropologist is and must be a theoretical anthropologist not only in background but also in practice. In their professional role, they can point out the factual consequences of alternative modes of action or recommend the best technical means for bringing about an end to the previously determined value. So that's about it for today's video session. Hope you found it informative. For more details regarding the courses or for the anthropology news diaries, do visit the official website of Sourcing Classes, that is www.sourcingclasses.com. Thank you.